Next item is item D, management service regarding demanding the immediate release of Armenian hostages by Azerbaijan. One resolution for adoption. Mayor, I do have a card for this item.
Okay. So this was my request that I had made a few weeks ago, calling upon the government of Azerbaijan and our government here in the United States to also call on the government of Azerbaijan to immediately release individuals that they are holding captive, a number of whom are officials who were democratically elected in open and monitored elections in the Republic of Artsakh before it was ethnically cleansed and depopulated of its indigenous Armenian population. The reason why this is of significance to us is because we had signed a sister city agreement with Marduni. One of the individuals who visited us here in these council chambers, Mr. Babayan, is one of the captives held along with Ruben Vartanian, who is one of the co-founders of the Aurora Humanitarian Global Prize. With that, I think it's important, given the number of individuals we have living in Glendale who were impacted by this humanitarian crisis, this gross violation of human rights against all the principles that we as Americans stand for, to speak out and call upon our administration and the government of Azerbaijan to do the right thing and support the release of these captives. So can we have the first speaker? Any comments or questions by any of my colleagues? Yeah. Yes, Councilmember Najarian.
I have a question. It is really a crisis and a reflection on Azerbaijan for detaining and imprisoning these elected leaders. These aren't soldiers. These aren't mercenaries. These are people that were elected by the people of Artsakh, and their only crime was trying to serve their residents. It is very painful to think of these hostages. I had a good friendship with Bako Sahakyan, who was the former president before Ardy Haratunian, and I applaud this motion and this resolution, because we really have to do more to just free these people who have committed no crime.
And Councilmember Najarian, you and I had an opportunity to meet with the attorney representing a lot of these cases, who's monitoring them. She visited us here at City Hall a few weeks ago and detailed some harrowing stories of the absolute negligence of the government of Azerbaijan, the torture, the inhumane conditions that these individuals are being kept in, how many of the folks who were taken into captivity, who were taken hostage, haven't been heard from, and may presumably be dead. So with that, I think it's important. Yes, Councilmember Garpetian.
Yeah, I echo my colleagues' comments, and also these elected officials, they had a choice. They could have left in the early process of, evacuation, if you want to call it that, the forced removal of people from their native lands, but they decided to stay and make sure that everyone else got out, safely, as many people as they could. So, and they got captured at the end. So, and I agree with everything my colleagues said.
Thank you. All right, may we have the speaker, please?
Sure, Miran Tomajan.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, honorable council members, as a 19-year resident of Glendale and great-grandson of Armenian genocide survivors, I extend my profound gratitude to the City Council of the City of Glendale for proposing this resolution demanding the immediate release of Armenian hostages by Azerbaijan. I also commend city staff, Stephanie Michlian, for an excellent report with respect to this resolution. Despite the November 9, 2020 ceasefire statement signed by Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia, which ended the 44-day war on Artsakh, and one of its provisions, which stipulates that, quote, the parties shall exchange prisoners of war, hostages, and other detained persons and dead bodies, end quote, the dynastically autocratic Aliyev regime in Azerbaijan continues to unlawfully hold Armenian hostages with impunity. The hostages who are named in the city's proposed resolution include civilians like Lebanese-Armenian dual citizen Viken Eljekian, prisoners of war, and democratically elected leaders of the Artsakh Republic. In the wake of Artsakh's War of Liberation in the early 1990s, some of Artsakh's democratically elected leaders who are currently held without legitimate due process by Azerbaijan visited Southern California and the city of Glendale specifically to shed light on major infrastructure, hospital and school construction, economic development, and viticulture projects in Artsakh. Spanning 2.5 decades, scores of Glendale residents invested their time and funds generously in Artsakh, a 3 millennia-old indigenous territory of the Armenian highlands, known for producing generations of strong-willed families devoted to their Christian faith, traditional customs, unique dialect, and oneness with their ancient land. According to reports and findings from organizations like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and others, Armenian POWs and civilians held hostage by Azerbaijan continue to be summarily abused. Human Rights Watch states that POWs have been subjected, quote, to cruel and degrading treatment and torture either when they were captured during their transfer or while in custody at various detention facilities. Human Rights Watch also has documented cases in which, quote, Azerbaijani forces used violence to detain civilians and subjected them to torture and inhuman and degrading conditions of detention, end quote. On June 13, 2024, one of the civilian leaders of Artsakh, prominent philanthropist, and current hostage, former Artsakh State Minister Ruben Vartanian's legal team submitted an urgent appeal to the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, imploring the latter to condemn the torture and ill treatment to which Azerbaijan has subjected him. Due to lack of meaningful action by the UN Security Council, the unwillingness by its influential member countries, including the US and France, to sanction Aliyev and Azerbaijan's military brass for their responsibility over abuses inflicted upon Armenian hostages and detainees, the Aliyev regime feels emboldened to continue to defy basic norms of international human rights law. Support this resolution, as does the Armenian Rights Council of America, and thank you for bringing this up. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. If there are no other comments, some may ask why why get involved in this. It's because this is an issue that really internationally, as Mr. Tumajan stated, even at the UN, very, very few nations, especially the powerful nations, when we look at for beacons of hope and democracy, are remaining silent. And to quote someone who once said, when the whole world is silent, even one voice is powerful. So let that voice be. Glendale's, I will ask my colleagues to see if we have a willingness to make the motion and a second and move to a vote.
Move the item.
Right?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Garpetian, seconded by Councilmember Brotman, and I know that the mayor has expressed her support for this as well, although she couldn't be here for the vote. This is also very timely because Azerbaijan has been granted to host the COP29 conference, an environmental conference, which is, I think, the height of hypocrisy, given that the country is a petro-dictatorship funding its war machine and its human rights violations on the back of petroleum exports. So hopefully this message will ring loud and clear. With that, let's have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Brotman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Asadrian, and Mayor Pro Tem Kassakhian.
Yes, thank you.